The saber-toothed tiger card is really quite fun to make and looks spectacular, but isn't quite as difficult as it may appear at the start. Okay, I've got my cover down, and as usual I've printed that straight onto the backing paper which I've got here. The next thing I've got are the four elements that make up the saber-toothed tiger. We've got an inner pair of teeth, the saber teeth, the lower jaw, and the face here. Now, a couple of points to note: that you'll notice that you get both the red part and the coloured part here. You don't necessarily have to put the red part in. That does thicken it slightly, but it's just the fact that his jaw opens and you can see in a little bit. I thought it'd be nice to make it red, but you could always use a bit of felt tip pen if you wanted to, or just simply leave it with the white card. It doesn't really show that much, but for the purpose of this demonstration I'll put both parts in, which is why mine has both the yellow and the red, and give priority. So if one of them's slightly smaller, if I can show you here, then give priority to the orange, the outer part. That's the main one. This other one's designed just to fit in just a little bit, so it's a fairly snug fit. Again, you can use your creases. They should line up pretty well, so long as the creases are more or less there, or they line up, it doesn't matter whether you crease from the front or the back. I tend to favour the back so it doesn't score the front so much. Obviously, if you haven't got the backing on, then you're going to need to score from the front there, and you can see the lines. Okay, that sounds like a lot, but it really is just quite simple. Let's make a start then with the various elements, and I'll begin with the main part of the saber tooth, the head here. I've now gone on and I've cut everything out. It looks a little bit odd at the moment because the face has to sort of become a little bit more rounded as we create it. A few points to note: that the lines, you fold all the lines, but there's two here and they're not marked because the back was red, so I couldn't put a red line on there. But the two ones at the back here, so on the tab and on its reverse there, are cut lines down to the fold line. Okay, you'll need to do that. It just helps now as we pull the whole thing together and glue it, as you see that now. That'll just help create a little bit of movement in the top of the head there. So that's the only thing to look out for. Apart from that, just make your creases as per normal. So the first thing I'm going to do now is just glue this head together. Now, I've got two ways of doing this. We've got some fangs and teeth to go in, but I'm going to build this part of the head first and then put those in afterwards. But I'm going to put those all in before I actually stick it down onto the paper. So the next thing to do, I've got my tabs there. Simply pull these over like so, and we can do this one flat because the pattern and the shape will be made as we open it out. So press that down. That is under a bit of pressure, so again, good glue as it were. And as I pull that open, you can see now we get the shape of his head like so. Now, don't be afraid to manipulate this. Again, just bend it a little bit, put some sort of rounded shape into it. I'm just moulding it, or forming it as it were, over my hand like so, and that'll just help create a little bit more of a rounded edge and take some of the starkness of the creases off. You can see there, it's looking pretty good. Okay, so the next thing to do is equip this beast with teeth. Now, there's two lots of teeth to go in. We've got the saber teeth, and we've also got his other ones here. Now, you'll notice those just fold in half, and there's two lines there that hold it, and that just simply slots in like so into the jaw. So there's two glue tabs there, so let's glue that, and then just simply pop that in. A bit of glue there and a bit of glue there, and it just sits up in centre line to centre line there. A little bit of the gum showing, and then make sure that we don't see any of that from that point there, the grey just touching underneath the point there. And those are his teeth installed. I can show you on the inside, it just fits there below those two tabs, but it's really just getting it to look aesthetically right. The gap in his teeth, that's where the sabres, as it were, will appear to come out from. So let's have a look at those next. Okay, with the saber-tooth teeth, no real surprises here. It's good old-fashioned cutting out time. A little bit of scoring. They've got a nice sort of shape to them. So what I've done is used my craft knife here and just scored. Now that's the back. I'm not using the blade. I'm just using the back part and just putting a ridge in there. You of course could use your scoring tool. But there's a curved line. If you follow it, it's fairly faint, but that will just help create this shape. If I pull them together, we can see already we've got the shape coming there. 2 tabs at the bottom, so the next thing to do is to simply glue these. Again, make this good and strong, especially this end one. It's a little bit tiny, but it needs to go on there. Now, as we make these teeth, they're going to form a shape, so we can't lay this one flat. Can I just show you there, like so? I can squeeze it flat, but you'll notice now, look, we've got that lovely tooth shape there. If I flip that over, you can see it from the back and again from the front. Let's just try and give you a side shot of that. Bit of dentistry work there. See that lovely shape? The curve is created by that score that we've put in there. So, same again with this one. Put that over, fold that in, fold that flat and just squeeze that on. Make sure it all lines up nicely, and then the tooth itself will be formed. It puts it under pressure there, and there we go. And there we go. Those are our saber-tooth teeth. If that makes sense. Right. It folds, but it folds inwards like this, and those 2 parts there will glue on the inside. So let's get their head back, and we'll just insert our saber-tooth teeth now. If I can show you on the camera shot here, what we're going to do is have these teeth sticking here and coming out one either side like so. It's a little bit awkward there. Let me just show you inside so that the teeth appear to come. If I close it, whoops, let's get that right. Close that up, put that in there like so, and they now come out from there like that. So really the simplest way to do it is to fold them back up again. Use that grey tab there as your glue tab. 1, 2. Remember now to keep this fold line facing to the back. The temptation is to put them in like that. They don't go like that, and we can just now gently feed those in. Just line them up. We don't want to see that grey bit there, so just pop it in, get them roughly in position. That's okay on that side, and I'll just manipulate it a little bit on this side to line it up, and that's fine. And there we go. Again, lovely saber-tooth tiger there. Look at that. Fantastic. So that bit's all done. The next thing to do will be to stick that onto the actual backing, but before we do that, let's just go and look at the lower jaw. The lower jaw, I have again just put the red on the back and stuck that down. Again, lots of fold lines on here. Simply go through and put your folds in. But before you do that, there is a cut line. Again, that's not in red. Can I just show you these 2 little bits here on that side and that side, and you'll simply need to, with your craft knife, just go round, and effectively what these are, if you'll look, they're just a continuation of the teeth. If I can just cut that one there and one there, and that just releases this part, and again we can put a little bit of fold onto that. You see, put the creases into there, because that is now going to form the lower part of the jaw as we pull it around like so, which now means it's gluing time. There's the tab there. Simply glue that. You can fold this in half, put that over, and line up with the outer piece there. You'll notice that the orange, the colour of his fur, actually carries on over the tabs now. It doesn't just stop. I've done that because then you can't see it. If it's not a perfect fit, you won't know. It'll still look a lovely colour on there. And there we go, that's the lower jaw, that's ready for fitting now. Again, once that pulls out, it'll make a lovely shape. So our next task now is to simply pop this down onto the backing sheet. All the pieces are together, so now really comes the exciting part. They all fold flat like so, and it's simply a case now of putting that down onto the paper here. So I've got 2 tabs. I'm going to glue one on one side. Good strong glue for this. Of course, I'm using my trusty tape pen there. So my teeth are within the frame, so the next thing to do is to just come in a little bit away from the orange as I can, and just come up a little bit as well. Try and keep this crease line here to line up a little bit higher than the red there. That's important, because we won't really see that, but we don't want the red showing underneath. And if I just put that on there, just lightly tack this, very, very lightly tack it down, put it over. I've got some glue on the other side. Then as we open up, we can see that there's a tiny bit of red there. Let's just by hand just shift that over just a fraction like so. Okay, that's forcing it down now like that. As long as it closes, that's okay, and it does. So that's fine. Just to manipulate it, if you want to just bring it in over the red, that's not a problem. If I show you that now, we've covered the side of the face there. Okay, so that's the top part in. We can see, look, that's coming on really nicely now. So it's just the same again for the lower jaw. I'm just going to glue these 2 tabs, and we're going to put that in there. Okay, with the lower jaw, you can see again there was a line there. I'm simply going to put this in just so it sits within the orange, but inside of the lion's mouth here. Again, just lightly tack that, rest that down, and pop that down on the other side, and just see roughly where it's all coming, because if you're not happy with it, you can change it. Now you notice again I've got a little bit of red, so if I've got that happening there, let's just pick this up off and move that out so it's not there. And again, I can just lightly untack this side, pop it down. Now when that goes down, hopefully that's okay on both sides. We can see that it is. This is where the glue pen really comes in useful, because if it's repositionable, you can do that with ordinary glue, but it can sometimes stain a little bit. But that's now popped the jaws in there. I'm happy with that. And there we go. And here is the finished card. As we can see, it really is quite lovely. A fantastic saber-toothed tiger there. Now, a couple of little points to note. You may just have to manipulate the head a little bit here. Remember, just come outside of the red, because the inner part will cover that. The saber-toothed teeth may stick out from the side of your page, in which case when it all comes down or it's not fitting too well, just angle them back a little bit. I've unstuck these and I've just pushed them back so that they face backwards a little bit more. If I turn that sideways, we can see it still works beautifully, but as I close it, I've got plenty of space in there now. So this is one of those models where there's going to be a little bit of fine tuning going on just to get it to look right, but once it's there, it's going to be absolutely fine. So it's a good thing to be able to just manipulate it. So I think pointing the teeth backwards a wee bit and just getting the head in the right position and the lower jaw. Don't worry if some of the red shows, it really isn't that terrible. It's quite hard to fully position it sometimes. And there we go, you've got a fantastic card, and I think most people would be absolutely delighted to receive one like this. I know I would be.